And the sense of colour here is different. So our landscape, I think, impacts a lot on what we buy. Like you go to Sydney and a lot of galleries will apply with a lot of turquoise with a white frame, and it's like, okay, that's Sydney. And then I'm seeing that with Brisbane is a bit of a lightness, lightness in the works that are applying with, and then people expect Melbourne to have perhaps like a bit more of a grunge aesthetic.
It's funny, there's turquoise right behind you.
It could be in Sydney,
Hi, I'm George, co-founder of Bluethumb, and I'm joined by my colleague Amy. Welcome to the Art in My Home podcast.
We uncover the surprising stories from the art collections of unexpected guests.
Today's guest is Georgia Huestis. Georgia has a wealth of experience working in art. She first cut her teeth in Melbourne at Deutscher and Hackett auction house, before moving to London to work at the high-end Rebecca Hossack Gallery, which specialise in Australian Indigenous art. She's now back in Melbourne working as the director of the Affordable Art Fair here. She's traversed the globe in her art career, and she's an avid art collector. And now, I'm sure the pinnacle of her art career today, she's a guest on our podcast. Welcome, Georgia.
Welcome, Georgia.
Thank you.
Did you always want to work in art?
Yes. Yeah, always. I think probably since primary school or before that. I guess Mum was an art teacher, primary teacher, and both of my grandmas were fashion designers. So I was surrounded by women who were creative, and like I got home from school and we did art after school. It was always, it was an obvious path. And I remember I did work experience at a law firm, and it was the best way to realise it wasn't for me. I remember looking at a logo on a piece of paper because I was looking at a contract, and I must have been like 15, I don't know, too early to be doing it. But I really realised that I needed to be surrounded by visual cues. And art was always something that was on my trajectory, I guess.
So you looked at the contract and you said, I want to do the logo, not the contract.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. I remember the exact office and like kind of flipping that bit of paper on and thinking, no, there's a picture. And,
Amazing. It's so good you did your law experience first.
Early on, yeah.
Yeah, that might have been a few years.
Yeah. Otherwise you can take a regretful path. Both grandparents were fashion designers.
Yeah, both my grandma. So one of them was a shoe designer and the other one designed nightwear. They were both, I guess one of them had come from New York. She'd come from New York and moved to Adelaide and then moved to Melbourne. It was loved fashion on the fields, that sort of thing. And then my other grandmother, she actually worked for Kaiser. And it was here just in Richmond. And so she was a fashion designer.
That's like nightwear, I think I think
it's probably now underwear, which she would say it was not when she was designing it. She was designing sort of 90s, but she designed like a lot of our clothes.
Awesome. Oh,
do you reckon that's come out in like your sense of style as well? Because you always wear so much colour, which is like, it's like I always like whenever I see you, I'm like, there's always so much colour, especially today. Like,
I guess so. I think, I still, like I paint my grandma's nails. She's in a nursing home, but that's like cute. One of these cathartic things I still do. And she always has like a coral lip and a coral nail polish.
That's really cute.
And I think colour and fashion, and then they would always look after us kind of growing up as well, my grandma Lois. So she would draw stories for us and we'd be drawing little fashion figures. So there was a lot of watercolouring and drawing growing up.
That's amazing. Lovely.
The old New York, Adelaide, Melbourne fashion pipeline.
Adelaide.
The well-trodden path.
Yeah.
You'd know it.
Amazing. And you started working in art. Was it Deutscher Hackett? Was that your first art job?
Yeah, I was actually sitting at uni and the girl next to me had said she worked at Deutscher and Hackett, and I'd sort of had that in my sights, and I just went in there to help with some computer problems, and I'm the most non-tech person ever. But I sort of, got the foot in the door there, and I was there for 5 years and I adored it.
Love that.
Yeah, it was working with some really special people who are like complete specialists in their field, and surrounded by museum pieces. And sometimes I'll be in a museum now and I'm like, I remember that little work that kind of came through, and that journey of consigning works and collecting journeys. I guess that secondary market feels quite different to the primary market, but now like the primary market where we're working now is artworks going off on their first journey, and then the secondary market was they might have had a really happy life in a home and then they're off for their next little placement on a wall somewhere else. So yeah, I loved working at Deutscher and Hackett.
Yeah. I was going to ask about the differences because you spent. It sounds like you spent the next part of your career working in primary.
Yeah.
What's different about secondary?
The money, I guess. The money's not always going directly to the artist, so that's not as satisfying. But you do have sort of resale royalties coming through. I love working with artists, so you didn't get that working in the secondary market. But you did often get excited stories from collectors who bought something and it was the first piece they bought, and then that might have set them off to collect a certain type of work, or you could always see when someone might sell their whole collection that there was a real collecting theme. And yeah, there's just a lot of passion with collectors, and I think you had a lot of established collectors coming through the auction house. But yeah, no, I do love working with artists, so I think the primary market is the spot for me.
Okay, yeah, we like it too. Yeah, cool. And then now there might have been stops in between, but next stop was London, was it? For Hossack?
Yeah, so I landed in London and didn't have a job and sort of did a bit of everything. But yeah, I soon found a job
Fix the computers?
No, there was no computer. I did hand out pamphlets for a little while. Okay. But no, I eventually found a job with Rebecca Hossack, and it was an incredible experience. So we had 2 galleries in London and a gallery in New York, and I was sort of travelling between the 3, and we had exhibition schedules working with artists at all 3 galleries, but we did 28 art fairs a year.
Whoa. Yeah. That's insane.
So often Rebecca would do half and I'd do the other half, and I'd always be travelling and seeing different fairs around the world, and it was a really special time. And I guess it probably wasn't that sustainable, but it was a good 5 years or so.
Like full booths and everything?
So like in between you're designing your booth, and then you might be in Hong Kong and then going to San Francisco and then back via New York, and then so it was a lot of travel, but a lot of fun.
Was like I know when I look at the art fairs we do, it just seems like most of what we're doing is packing up. Or unpacking. Was it, if it's 28 a year, is it
what is that a
mainly
month?
packing?
There's a lot of, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. There's like, you probably wore the same outfit to every fair, and then you're up the ladder, you're installing your show just as quickly as it's kind of coming down. But it's just that thrill of the fair. And I guess like people say to me sometimes at the fairs here, oh, you must be so tired. I'm like, no, this is my favourite place to be, is at the fair, that buzz of people coming in, seeing the work, and all that packing pays off when you're there and it's all up on the walls. So a lot of shipping internationally, packing works, working with artists so that we've got enough work at each different fair, and pacing yourself in that way, but then giving artists enough time to create new work and not feel like they're churning it out as well.
Gosh, that's insane. And it specialises in Australian Indigenous art as well.
Yeah, so Rebecca's passion was Indigenous art, and she started the gallery 30 years ago, 35 years ago probably now, and she was showing works by Clifford Possum and Jimmy Pike over in London, and she just sort of opened a little gallery there. And then as she was over in London, she was working with artists kind of closer to home over there, but she had an incredible collection, like a personal collection, so we'd put on some beautiful shows and often work with the Australian consulate over there and expats who long to see Australian art when they're overseas.
Was she Australian herself?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So she was an Australian.
And was there at the time much of a market for it? Because I know we've seen a bit of a big uptake in Indigenous art in like New York at the moment.
Yeah, it's huge.
With like Steve Martin, and then I think Deland Gallery's just opened there as well. So like obviously there's a huge uptake there, but what about when you were working there? Were you finding that there was a I don't know, what was the market like?
Well, I'd say I guess it was just if the work hit someone.
Yeah,
so we bring
sure.
it to the art fairs, and often someone would not know the story behind
Yeah.
an artwork, but they just see it and feel like they had an incredible connection to it, and then you kind of talk them through the work. But I'd say we were presenting works or exhibitions of works that we loved, and then they eventually find their right home.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that sort of high-end kind of $1 million Steve Martin.
Yeah.
But it was, working with artists to put on the best shows that we could and sharing it with a new audience.
How did she run 3 galleries? Was she moving between them a fair bit, or?
Yeah. So a lot of air miles.
I bet.
Yeah, and a good team as well. So,
Now you work at Affordable Art Fair here, but overseas, what's your favourite fair?
Yeah,
What's
I was
the
just
best
going to
one you
ask
went
that as
to?
well. What's the best one, Georgia?
I think they're all so different, and that's the best thing about doing. Like, every fair has its own stamp, and I think that's what we try and do here. Is that we've got Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, and it's like that they all have their own feel. I love the Outsider Art Fair in New York, a lot of self-taught artists, and that was because the gallerists themselves were incredibly passionate, and it felt like a week of learning. I loved Art on Paper in New York. There was something quite calming about walking through a space where every work in this enormous stadium of like 20 basketball courts was paper.
Wow.
Sort of lightness.
Yeah.
And like the affordable art fairs, so a favourite would be Hong Kong.
Yes.
So I just love the Hong Kong fair, but I love my weeks in Hong Kong because you love the fair, but then you also love going out for dinner and the social aspect of it as well. I'd always stay with one friend there, and we'd always have a great week. And the London fairs as well, so we'd sort of do Hampstead or Battersea, and it was just a different path to take in the morning. You'd go kind of north or south on the tube. All of the fairs have such a different feeling, but also you meet such incredible people because everyone's kind of coming with a different mindset of discovery.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And was Rebecca Hossack going, was the gallery going to affordable art fairs at the time as well? Yeah,
and she still does the fairs.
Oh,
so that was
fantastic.
a really good introduction to the brand.
Yeah, of course.
And knowing that like I knew it from the other side, so I always felt when I came to working for the fair, I was like, oh, that's why that works that way, but also I wish it worked this way, so you could kind of change things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And apart from employing you, she also played matchmaker, right?
Yeah, she did. So, it's a funny one. Rebecca was sitting next to my now husband, Tim. Oh, no, I think I probably, told the punchline a bit soon there. But, so she's sitting next to Tim, and she said to him, I know just who you're going to marry. And I think he probably thought, who is this lady and why is she saying this? Just met her. She set us up on a date, which she came along to.
I didn't know
She
that.
came along to.
She chaperoned you. Blind date.
Yeah, she was a bit disappointed. She came to the gallery and she was never running, like she was never on time to anything, but she'd always, this day she arrived at the gallery on time and said, what are you wearing? And I said, what do you mean? She said, I thought you'd get a bit dressed up. This is important. Like, you're about to meet your future husband. And then... So I put some lip gloss on and, we went across to the hotel across the road and, we had this drink and I was a bit taken aback because I wasn't expecting to be impressed. But, the rest was history. And then, we were married and now have 2 kids and another one on the way. So,
fantastic. Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I guess, how did you come from... So you came from London back to Melbourne for Affordable Art Fair, or...?
I was actually working at the Melbourne Art Fair.
Oh, the Melbourne Art Fair, sure.
I was working at Acme.
Yes.
Yeah, doing registration work.
Yes.
In what was called the River Room down in Fed Square, and that was great fun too. It was a bit of an area that I didn't know a lot about. I was cataloguing technology, like... George, you probably know more about it, but I was like, it was gaming.
Interesting.
And also digitising old film reels. And I loved the team that I worked with there. That was kind of before the Acme renewal project. And so, it was just there cataloguing. And then I always loved art fairs, so I knew the Melbourne Art Fair was coming up, and I went and helped Tim Olsen Gallery at the fair there, and then bumped into Steph, who was the director of the Hong Kong Affordable Art Fair, and we kind of looked at each other and went like, hang on, what are you doing in this city? We've never met in this city before. And then she said that they were thinking of bringing the Affordable Art Fair to Australia, and that's how it all kicked off.
Wow, so you're one of the OGs to start the art fair?
Yeah,
oh, great.
So it was Steph and I and another girl, and gosh, we worked hard. We did the Melbourne Fair first, and then it's been able to grow from there.
Yeah,
Remind me, what year was the first Melbourne one?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
We went, Bluethumb did that one.
Did we?
Yes. I think that, you did.
Yeah,
you did. I've seen photos of the booth.
Oh,
yeah.
great.
No, I do remember the Royal Exhibition Building. You're on the left.
Very
I do remember.
Very good,
yeah.
Remember the stand you had? Yeah.
Actually, I even think I went to that. That's I think I remember. That's wild.
Yeah,
But
you had like the jumpy weaving in the middle and the little kind of goannas and things.
Oh, yeah.
God,
we got a bunch
good
of them
memory,
at the
Georgia.
downstairs, yeah. Oh, I'm glad you remember.
Yeah.
So I guess there must have been a lot of pressure then to pull it off, right, on you?
Yeah, it was a pretty fast learning curve.
Yeah.
Coming from the other side of it, you know what you want when you get to the fair, but then there is a lot that goes into pulling a fair together. So probably like the marketing was the biggest surprise to me, just everything that needs to go into getting the right numbers of people through the door, and to like, it was a brand that no one really knew at that time, and wanting to bring on galleries, and there were a lot of gallery visits, a lot of it's a global company, so we have a lot of support in that we can kind of chat to different fair directors in different regions, so that has been really helpful, and just the sharing across the different countries is really key as well, and the differences and similarities are pretty fascinating.
Like, just from the outside, I think you guys must be doing something right, because other fairs are actually have been shutting down, you know. Other art fairs disappeared.
I think they're in Sydney now.
They are.
They're still around. So I think
Okay.
we're having a little hiatus in Melbourne. But the Melbourne fair's become quite loved here.
Yeah.
Love
and
it.
there's something really special about being in the Royal Exhibition Building.
Yeah.
I think my daughter thinks that that's where I go every day to work.
And just let it fly.
We do, like, I take her to lots of other events there, and she still thinks that's my work. So
That's your office.
apparently I organise many events in that building. But yeah, there's a real fondness around the Melbourne Fair, which comes from our team adoring that fair as well, and hopefully our galleries do too, and visitors. I think visitors kind of will go into the space and think, I've never been in this building, and I think, it's this building in the heart of the city, which should really be everybody's building. So it is nice when we sort of warm it up with a lot of artwork.
Yeah, 100%. It's the most magical of the venues. Sorry to the Brisbane, Sydney, but it's like the best.
You have to go to Brisbane, but
yeah, true. But Melbourne, like, a lot of feedback we had was just like, it combined with the building is just like next level.
Yeah, well, I think like globally we've got 15 fairs, and none of them are in a World Heritage building.
Really? Yeah.
So I think we're doing pretty well here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And sort of getting more onto the art collecting side of things, I bet you have people who come in and have never bought art. Like, this is the first time they buy a piece of art. Like, do you have any advice for someone how to approach buying a first piece, especially, I guess, assuming it's there at Affordable Art Fair?
Yeah, I think just buy what you love. Like, it's like you're buying it for no one else but yourself, other than if you're buying it and you've got a family that all need to agree on that purchase. But I think, like, when you know, if you see a work, it's like, does it make you smile? Are you going to wake up tomorrow and think, I wish I got it?
Yeah.
And if you don't feel comfortable, like, ask the gallery questions or ask the artist questions, because a lot of love and work has gone into every artwork. And hopefully, I also love the idea that you buy an artwork that you'll always find something new in, that you can kind of look at it, and you've got these artworks behind you that I keep looking at and I'm like, concentrate.
We plan that.
But like, I think it's like, George, you've got a work by Andrew behind you, and it's like just the line work and the colour, and it's like, what makes you happy? So, but also not being too worried about it. It's like, and also you don't feel like you've always got to buy for the space. You can always move artworks around.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I had a buyer in the other day and he's like, well, how does this one speak? Does this work need to speak to? And he's new. And I was like, they don't need to speak to each other at all. Do you just like it? And he's like, yeah. Well, I was like, well, that's enough. Like, they don't need to colour coordinate, you know?
No, but I think inherently, like, themes do come out.
Yes.
And you think, oh, gosh, like, I realised when you were asking about works in my home, I was like, how did I get so many bird paintings? And I didn't really know that was a thing in my home. And it's not that I'll necessarily put them together, but I also feel like then I had 2 mermaid screen prints. And it is funny. I think it's just being confident in what you're drawn to and not feeling like you're trying to impress anyone else other than your own taste. And like, if we all had the same taste, how boring would
be so boring.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, you can't now unsee the bird theme that you have. What do you think is different about the Australian art market compared to when you worked overseas? And what do you think about the trends on collecting in Australia as opposed to overseas?
Yeah.
Maybe London's, but I don't know, what would be...
Well, I think New York, I remember some, like a 15-year-old coming up to me and I was saying, you know, like, do you want me to tell you more about the piece? And he was like, I'm a collector. Oh, yeah. You know, and it's just like, oh, wow, there's probably this, like, inherent confidence in New Yorkers that they've grown around, like, massive public institutions and galleries, and, like, you're a New Yorker, you are part of an art world already and you're born into it. Whereas, like, working in Hong Kong, it's sort of more of an education piece where we might do more education programs on what is an etching, what does an edition mean, because not everyone's grown up with artwork on their walls. And then I feel like the Australian buyers, there's a happy confidence. Like, people often, like, international team members will come to our fair and they're like, gosh, your galleries are so open and happy and everyone talks to you.
Yes.
And so I feel like a lot of buyers coming to the fair or people looking for something generally know what they like and what they don't like, or if they see something they'll know if they like it pretty quickly. But also I feel like here sometimes we have a little bit more wall space than overseas.
True.
And the sense of colour here is different. So our landscape, I think, impacts a lot on what we buy. So we have a lot of natural light that we're living amongst here, as opposed to, say, a city which has a lot of buildings. So some fairs, the artwork is reflected in that you'll have a lot of skyscraper artwork or things like here.
Sure.
But here it can be quite serene.
Yeah, lots of beachscapes.
A lot of like you go to Sydney and a lot of galleries will apply with a lot of turquoise with a white frame, and it's like, okay, that's Sydney. And then I'm seeing that with Brisbane is a bit of a lightness. Lightness in the works that are applying with, and then people expect Melbourne to have perhaps like a bit more of a grunge aesthetic.
It's funny, there's turquoise right behind
Yeah.
It could be in
Brisbane.
Sydney. Yeah.
Here a Sydney piece.
She is actually a Queenslander artist, so that helps. There you go.
Yeah.
So if we've got more wall space, does that mean bigger pieces or just more, or does it mean anything?
Yeah. Do you know what? We had a rule in our house that I wasn't allowed to buy any more small pieces because I was just like bringing small works in just to get them through the door.
Yeah.
And then, my husband said, the next work has to be big. And I was like, oh, great, I can really work to that brief. But no, I think some people like the intimacy of a small work, and then some artists work better on small scale, and then some artists will try and scale up to a bigger piece and the work might lose the magic, whereas some artists will work better and have that strength in like a really big hero piece where they don't lose that wall power by scaling up. I think it's so dependent on the artwork.
Also, salon hangs are really trendy these days too. So
Yeah.
if you need more, just to get some more small works through the door.
Where heaps of stuff squeezed together in a big
So
old
cool.
higgledy-piggledy.
So cool. No, curated. So cool.
Big fan of that.
All right. Well, we should probably. Could you talk to us about kind of the process of how you organise an art fair, Georgia? How does it start? How would you start the year? Because I know it's obviously keeps going. How would you? What's your kind of start
it kind of
point?
is non-stop. I think we started with the Melbourne Fair.
Yeah.
Then we had Sydney, and now we've got Brisbane in between. So it keeps going.
It keeps going for sure.
So we have a galleries team, marketing, and then there's operations that brings everything together. So we'd be working with galleries or working with artist collectives to kind of bring them in and sort of see who we'll be working with on a particular fair. And then our marketing team will kind of bring in all of their stories. And then the fair has to run, so we need to have aisles that are wide enough for our visitors to enjoy. We need to have seating, food, so that the full event experience. And then programming. So, I love working with artists, so we'll bring artists in to the fair to sort of give painting examples or have a children's art studio so that the event is family friendly, and sculpture, things like that. So lots of different facets to the fair, and then we all have our little strengths or little projects that we like to work on. But I like to think we've got a great team and we all have a lot of fun working together. I was saying before, like at the start of the year or before a fair, I'll like have a folder and print little bits of little pictures off and have them in a folder of just a bit of a vision of things that we think might work at future fairs. But it's really artist-led, so we kind of go out to our galleries to say, do you have any ideas? What can we work on to give the fair a special flavour, I guess? Yeah.
What's like the weirdest problem you've had to solve over the
Pigeons.
time?
Oh, actually, that was a good
Pigeon?
one. Amy would know that well, is that, having to put drop sheets over your sculptures because there's a resident pigeon that sometimes is in the Royal Exhibition Building. So that felt a bit out of our control. Little things like that. Like, I know I've got a lot of bird paintings, but not actual bird expertise. So.
Yeah, so we had to cover the
Brad guns.
Georgia
came running up. She's like, "No problem."
It's like, I feel like there's like something going on, and I don't want that to arrive in the morning because I think it's that like night in the museum sort of what happens when we go home at night.
Yeah, totally. The animals have gone rogue overnight.
Yeah. In terms of other funny things, I can't quite. I feel like a lot goes on in the week of a fair. There are probably quite a few laughs. But my favourite thing at the fair is just to stand at the front door and ask people what they're looking for because everyone is coming for something different, and everyone's taste is legitimate, and it's just all about having something for everyone. So whether it's I've been asked for vehicle art, I've been asked for art with tigers, and people will want different things, and it's that like discovery. But I love hearing what people have. Like some people will just come and then let it come to them, but other people will come with like almost like a shopping list
of what tiger art they want.
It's popular.
I really enjoyed wandering the last Affordable Art Fair, just kind of just listening.
Yeah,
like the conversations between galleries and artists and collectors and stuff. I don't know. I spent an hour kind of listening. It was really great.
Yeah, my like one little covert operation was the face painting was a little bit busy, and I really like face painting, and so I just sat there and did some face painting for an hour. Like my mum used to always do it at the school fair, and I was like, I've been doing this for you. Like, I can do this, and but listening to people talking about what they'd seen and what they're enjoying when I was just kind of quietly painting my child's face.
Like I'm just a face painter here. I don't know anything.
So that was good fun, but it's nice. It's nice when people are enjoying themselves.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Well, we should probably talk about the art in your home and the many birds that you have.
Yes, I want the aviary. Let's get into it.
Tell us about your home. What's your decor theme, interior mood? What's your vibe?
I'd say it's not a distinct vision. It's very much a collection of things. So probably like too many books and vases, and I think the first thing I ever bought was a chair, like an antique chair. So I think that probably like that collecting. So I'd say it's not very intimidating, and I do move things around quite a lot, and I do get quite a lot of satisfaction out of creating little vignettes around the house. I love bright colour. I love painting, works on paper. I guess I think probably there are trends forming, but only now am I realising that because I've just been buying things that I love.
Yeah. That's nice though, like building up a collection kind of.
Yeah, but not with a complete purpose.
Yes,
just like I've seen that and I have to have it.
Yeah, and now you can look back at it and you're like, oh, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have multiple works by the same artist ever, or it's one-offs?
Yeah, I do. I suppose, one of the first works I bought was from Papunya Jupi, and it was a work by Mavis Japanenka, and I have 3 of hers, and I was buying them when I was in London from the art centre directly because I just loved her work. She was in her 90s at the time, and I was really drawn to them, so I've got 3 of her works. And then, a collection of Jimmy Pike lino cuts. I bought them in auction from an auction house in Perth, I think. And that was when I was in London as well, and they were unframed in a little box, and then they sat under my bed in London for probably 5 years, and then when I got home and could afford to, I framed them all up.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you have any hanging in your London house?
I had a few, I had a pretty good frame over there, so I could kind of get things framed up, but I was always aware that I did want to move home. And I was always living in shared houses, and it wasn't that practical to be the biggest art collector. So there was a lot sort of rolled up underneath my bed.
I really like these Jimmy Pike ones though, the black and white.
Yeah, and I was so funny about framing them because I knew I always wanted to live with them, and that it was such a the profile of the frame is like a light wood, and then they've got the black frame at the front. But
they're beautiful. Yeah,
I worked with Jimmy's wife over at Rebecca Hossack Gallery, so they were sort of a bit sentimental. Yeah,
lovely. Do you remember the first artwork that you purchased that started your kind of collection journey?
Yeah, so I guess a lot of works on paper. I would always buy artworks from the op shop as a kid.
Yeah, sure.
I'd always be rifling through, always trying to make a discovery. But I did buy a little work from probably Warloo artists, so outside of Alice Springs, just a little 30 by 30.
Yeah.
And I remember asking the artist what inspired him, and he said, I just want to buy some meat for dinner. And I was like, great, because art is mercantile. It's you've made a painting and you want to sell it. And I sort of loved that, but it's blue and white, and this incredible dotting, and I loved the work immediately. It was in a pile of works, and I had to find the artist, and then so that was probably and that was rolled up for a long time before it got up on my wall.
Did you travel a lot to art centres working with Rebecca's gallery, or
no, not with Rebecca, but I worked a lot at Deutscher and Hackett with art centres, working on provenance and copyright, things like that. And then through university, I did a bit of travel as well.
Beautiful. Do you have any favourite pieces? Maybe all of the ones you've sent us are your favourites.
Well, I was also sending them to you when the kids were in bed, and I could actually walk around the house. I guess, at the last art fair I bought a work by Laura Veckmain.
Yes, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I feel like it's probably this lusting for a beach house kind of vibe.
I love an interior though, Georgia. Any day of the week. It's just beautiful. Yeah,
I was looking at it last night sort of in our living room thinking this is the opposite to my home. It's really calm.
It is.
And there's a bowl of shells that all look very fragile, and I couldn't really have that in my current home with toddlers. So it's perhaps an aspirational.
Laura's on Bluethumb as well, actually. Her palette is just so delicate and light, and I think it just it felt really calm the minute I saw it, and I think probably previously I was buying works that are really high key, bright works, but at the moment I just am loving these sort of more subdued, and it might be just this longing for a calm life. Calm amongst the chaos.
Sandy, muted tones.
And I think it's it has this paper nautilus or this sort of nautilus shell in it, and that reminds me of my mum. So.
And I like that it's got a little bird painting.
There is a painting, there's a painting of a painting of birds.
And I feel like they kind of were maybe a hooded plover bird, which were a bit endangered in the in the sand dunes. I don't know if they really are. I'm not actually a bird expert.
Mum always says they are, and to keep the dogs on the lead.
Well, that's
with
the thing.
Plovers.
Yeah. It's the very delicate nesting process.
So there is a tie to your house with the painting of birds.
Yeah, I do love a painting in a painting. That is, I probably
that's
do.
Niche, but
I've got a few of those, and one from auction house / sort of antiques place in London was a picture of a studio and then paintings within the painting, and I feel like that's, you don't see it all the time. But
No.
yeah.
I think it takes like a lot of like a skill and kind of also confidence to, especially if it's a painting you know of in a painting.
Yeah.
You need to sort of, I don't know, I was looking at some Brett Whiteley pieces in a book the other day, and he often would have paintings in his paintings.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or like when someone's copying a Matisse in a painting, you're like, ooh, brave of you.
That's confident.
And James, how do you say that? Sorry?
Is it Macaulay?
Mulcahy.
Okay, that's
Yeah. So James
Large
was
watercolour.
Yeah, I wake up to that every morning.
Beautiful.
It's like in our hallway, but it's also really calm.
I've never seen a watercolour that large.
Yeah, it's
before.
huge.
It's massive.
Yeah, and he was in our first Discover Young Talent exhibition that we put on. And I feel really lucky to have this painting. I feel like I couldn't probably have it now. But James was also working as a carpenter and like is not prolific at all. And that work, just like the gradient of blue to green, I just am like watercolour.
So calming.
Master. Yeah.
Is he an artist full time now?
I think he is,
Okay. Yeah, cool.
But I do remember him saying to me, like, to be a carpenter was a good pairing because you can frame your works.
Yeah, for cheap.
Yeah. Like, I think that's a pretty clever decision.
Very
I think
smart.
a lot of artists who can frame their own work are pretty clever.
Nice. Oh, a couple of bird paintings here. Got Rebecca Jewell, Vicky Singleton.
Oh, yeah, that's the Woolloo. The emu pair. Emus as well, Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I bought that
That's
painting.
very colourful. That's lovely.
Yeah, so that was Karen Barnes, and I saw that work when I was probably expecting like our first child, and I thought it was a bit of a modern take on the mother and child. So like you've got the
Little baby.
the mama emu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
Yeah.
I like the cantaloupe actually.
Yeah, Alice Eyre.
Yeah.
So you would have seen Alice at our fairs.
You're right. Yeah.
So that was a wedding present, and it just sits in our kitchen, and I love it. And yeah, I think a lot of the artwork I have is all very nostalgic. That reminds me of my grandfather who loved to eat cantaloupe.
That's lovely. Yeah.
And then it was from an exhibition called Wrapped. So artworks that were still had their stickers or this has like the foam wrapping around the cantaloupe to keep it well protected. But it's two colours, green and pink, which I love. But the line work is so strong that Alice, the simplicity of it is what works for me.
And you choose a work at every art, at Melbourne? Is that what every art fair?
No, I don't think so. I feel like I don't turn off.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm always looking, and I think that's the thing about my inbox is like you're always receiving imagery, and that like my computer space is probably not very big. But yeah, always downloading images and looking, and then I'll often find myself really late at night. I'm like, I should get off page 26 here, or when it's that discovery, and you'll find that with Bluethumb is that like how long can you spend on a website, but you might just find that piece that you've always been wanting.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and it's dangerous working here for that reason.
I find I shop chaotically as well. I'll spend ages looking at stuff, and I'll have it in my cart, the piece I want, and I won't buy it.
Yeah,
and months later, on a whim, it is checked out, gone. I haven't.
Or you kind of wake up and you're like, what happened last night? Like, did I buy that?
And I feel it's like such a loss because you're like, no, I've lived with that for like 3 months in my cart. It's like someone took it from me, but I'd just like grown used to it. Like, so frustrating.
No, I feel like like the Laura Ekman painting with the birds. I knew that I really wanted it, and then I'd looked at it for probably a few days, and then that was when I said to Tim, like, I just wanted how to work. I wanted to show you, and it was from a gallery in Queensland, and it was it just felt like a bit of an unusual choice. And then when I showed it him, he said to me, "Should we buy it?" And I was like, "Oh, yes, yes, quick now." And I think it's yes, right answer. And you don't always get that, and I think. I've worked in galleries where sometimes one partner's outside and they're refusing. They're like, no, I don't like it, and that's quite a strong feeling. But I feel like if you both love a work, you've got to buy it.
Yeah,
if you can.
Totally.
it's a special. And also I've figured out like Tim loves blue paintings, so it's like I've got to be like a little bit clever, and so that's probably where my colour palette has shifted a little bit, because the home is for all to enjoy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what does your husband think of your other artworks in your collection? He just lives with them now.
Yeah, no, I think he doesn't get a lot of say, but I think now that we kind of know what each other likes, it is nice, and it's so special buying works together, because you're not buying like big works all the time, and I'm not buying really expensive artworks. I'm buying what we can afford and what we feel like we can't live without.
Yeah.
And the brief at the moment is bigger paintings.
Yeah. It's a terrible brief, you poor thing.
Do you find you sort of are drawn to blue now because there's an easier yes?
Yeah, look, maybe I think I switch it to a bit of a light green, but yeah. Look, I just love as many paintings in my home as I could.
Fair enough. Yeah. Same. Is there a piece that you let get away that you can't stop thinking about?
Yeah. Yes. Rob Tucker, an artist in New Zealand that I worked with for a long time, and there was one work which had a little he did these beautiful still lifes and then these ships, but there was one painting of like a little vase with violets in it, and I always remember that work, but I always wanted to work by Rob, and then it wasn't really fitting in my under the bed sort of theory when I was living overseas. But yeah, that's one work I still would love a work by Rob Tucker. Yeah.
And that particular one?
That one went long ago, but I feel like I'd be pretty, like, you know when you love an artist's style that you almost love anything that they do.
Yeah. Okay.
And like that's the feeling that I had with this work.
Yeah. And is there any artists on your radar that that have caught your eye?
Yeah, I think there are new artists that come up, but then there are also artists that I always see and I still love, and I think, they're kind of like family members at a fair. Like you go around and you go to all the booths and then you expect to see new work by that sort of artist. So I really like the work of Lyle McDonald, who does these little still life scenes.
Is he with the Toowoomba Gallery?
She was with Sketchco.
That's it, yes.
Yeah, actually, and she has shown with Toowoomba.
Yeah,
you are right.
They're really, really hyper.
And this like beautiful grey kind of. They almost look like old masters.
Yes, old masters. That's it. Yeah.
So there was a work of grapefruits that I loved in Sydney of hers. And then Joe Blundell.
Yes, love Joe Blundell.
I feel like I'd always be happy to have a Joe
any day of the week
in my house. And then Craig Parnaby from Salt Contemporary. I've always just loved his work. You always have little favourites that you walk around the fair, and I know that like friends will come to me and say, "Oh, what's this artist bringing to this fair?" Or my mother-in-law might say, "Oh, is Katie Wyatt coming to the fair?"
Sure.
Or like there are always people have their fair favourites and artists that they follow. So
yeah, it's nice to see that kind of development from them over different fairs as well. It's like what they were doing last year compared to what they were doing this year, and like their growth.
Yeah, and it has to stay fresh. I think that's the thing. Like people don't. Yeah, you've got to. As a fair and as a gallery, you kind of got to give your artists time to breathe and create new work and come up with new ideas. And sometimes we might not be expecting it in the first year, but the next year we're kind of ready for it. I feel like artists are ahead of the trend. They know better than we do. And like I think that's with special projects or installations we do. It's nice if they're kind of artist led, because artists are who we should be listening to, not the organisers. Yeah.
Well, you're on this podcast, so so we're listening to you. I think we already sort of touched on this, but so with the two little kids, does it affect how you kind of lay the house out? Like I'm struggling because I want some sculpture.
Yeah.
And I've got
I want a lot of things.
Little kids.
Yeah.
Is it just hanging it high? Is it holding off on buying expensive fragile art?
Yeah, I just had a disaster with nail polish 2 weeks ago.
Ooh.
Like the car seat is covered in hot pink nail polish, and I'm just like, I need more high storage. It's like these little fingers that. Yeah. I think that art in my home has been impacted by family life, and I long for the days of having a coffee table book down the road. But it's just a little stage that we're at in our lives. But
15 years.
Yeah, I mean, and I love putting like the kids' artwork up on the wall as well. I think that's something that I grew up with, was like that you can have. Like, my daughter will say, "Oh, is that going up on the wall?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, you got to really go for it." But I think the general cleanliness of the house is not quite the same. But I think artwork is really important to grow up with if we can.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
That's an El Casson up there, actually.
Oh, I was watching it. I've been looking at it like little side cap. But yeah, no, just the creativity that can come out of kids. And it was like my daughter drew a portrait of me yesterday, and I was the one with rainbow hair, and I was like, oh, thank you. I don't know what that's saying, but I'll take it.
Oh, awesome. So if you sort of had a blank check and you could buy any artwork at all, is there something you would get that you covet that's kind of...
Yeah, it just felt a bit greedy to say it. Like, I love that Vienna. I don't know if you've been to Vienna, but like a Sheila or a Klimt, the Kiss would be lovely. But that was probably one of those paintings that just moved me, and I was just travelling solo, and I remember just like standing there crying and thinking, oh wow, what just happened? And I was really surprised by it. But I feel like those works do not belong in my home, and even if I could afford it, I would like it to be shared with others. So I think I'd go and buy a Rob Tucker. I think it's I love artwork that is kind of close to me. It has a story, and that like you're supporting an artist that you have worked with or that you know, but also that is going to make you happy. And I know that would make me happy.
Oh,
that's nice.
I like that.
That's the first non-Mona Lisa answer.
Yeah, you can do it.
Well, I was within budget.
I get the Sistine Chapel roof in my house. You get Rob Tucker.
Real big budget ones.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was starting big, but also, I wouldn't want the
Klimt is fine.
Yeah, I don't need the cues in my house.
Oh, fantastic.
That's it from us, I reckon, Georgia.
It's been great.
It's been a great chat.
Oh, thanks. I feel like
fascinating.
No, it was good fun. We could keep chatting for
honestly,
ages, I'm sure.
I'm always fascinated by like what's in the shopping cart, what else is there.
Yeah,
but it's more like
there's an artist, I think Jessica Davidson.
Yes,
she's in my shopping cart.
Yeah, she is. She's
on
going to
Bluethumb.
AAF with someone. I think I think she was in your staff pics. Yeah, she is,
and so I love seeing what you guys like curate, and without needing to do the trawl, it's like, ooh, what is being presented to me.
We're quite lucky we get all like the first, like, I think the benefit of Bluethumb is because so many people upload to us, we always see like, oh, I haven't seen that before, and that's
and then you
nice.
probably get people like taking a chance where it's not that fear of showing their work like in person, or they can do it almost like not anonymously, but it's like you can give a new series a bit of a go and see what happens.
100%, it's low risk.
Real low risk,
and we have established people who sell a lot. We'll be like, do I come up with a pseudonym, or do I just put this like?
And it is that.
I'm doing abstract.
It's
like, you can do it.
You can be successful. Like, be a successful artist. Sell your work. Like, make money from selling your work.
Yeah. And, we give them the gentle nudges with like the daily pics and the staff pics. It's like you're in the right direction, so it's like keep going. So.
No, people will always discover a good artwork, and then multiple people will usually want that artwork at the same time.
100%.
It's really interesting because we have all the data, and you can see how many works are in carts.
Okay.
So, the new work goes up, and overwhelmingly it's added to a lot of carts. So someone better pull the trigger because it's like in 30 carts.
It's like a little like behind the scenes.
You can see it's really resonating because suddenly like a lot of people, because people shop by adding a whole bunch of stuff to their shopping
They
cart
do.
sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's
And then,
me.
like,
Yeah, you put it
filter
all in,
down.
and then you see what you can
Choose your
afford at the
favourite.
end.
Yeah,
Like,
And then
gosh.
it's like, this is in 30 other carts. Like, even I feel the pressure when
Yeah,
I'm
it's
buying
like,
with Bluethumb. I'm like, oh my
yeah.
God, 3 other people want my painting. Like, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I think it's that behind the scenes
Yeah.
thing that you guys are lucky to have that we'd all be. And when do people buy? Like, what time of the day do people buy?
Ooh.
Just any time.
What's the hot time, George?
At night.
Is
At
it?
night. Yeah. Okay.
That's sort of just around dinner, a bit after dinner is
Yeah.
biggest. And actually Sunday night's the most popular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like facing a bit of a week. Like, how can I
Thanks,
make
yeah,
this
it's like,
artwork this week feel better?
Oh.
Yeah, let's start it on a good note at least.
And
Yeah.
3 a.m. is a real funny time as well. You
Yeah.
get some real people who like
That's just
go
when the
hard at
nightclubs are
3
shutting,
a.m.
isn't
Yeah.
it? 3 a.m. It's
might-
like
On the
everyone's
way
back.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might get a
You get the insomniacs at that
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Okay.
end of the night drinking peak
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, just pulling the trigger because they're like, oh, let's just do it. Yeah.
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 But yeah, like the longer I've been doing it, the more I realise people are like me and are pretty chaotic.
Yeah.
With
Okay. So I thought you were going to say people work in patterns,
no,
but
well,
no.
sort of
Yeah.
yes and no, but yeah, there's if you watch someone considering stuff and shopping, it's bouncing around,
Yeah.
and I'm the same. No one's as kind of as
Yeah.
structured as they
But
think.
then don't you think when you find that work, like,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Georgia.
Thanks, Georgia.
Yeah, no, thank you. On that
Keep
note,
going.
on that note, as
Lovely.
you search for the one.
and we're looking forward to the Brisbane Art
Oh, we're
Fair.
so looking forward to it. Yeah.
That's coming up
Can't wait.
in May.
May 8th. May
Yeah,
8th.
yeah.
Yeah.
See you there.
See you
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
In your hot
Awesome.
weather gear.
Exactly. It'd be very exciting. Bit of a warm weather fair.
Oh,
and
yeah.
a very excited Brisbane audience.
Oh,
And,
yes.
Yeah, very, very excited team.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you.